Call to order County Commission for November the 19th, 2018. Mr. Herndon, would you call the roll, please?
Katie Huffake.
Here.
Todd Kesterson.
Here.
Steve Douglas.
Here.
Jimmy Dale Patterson. Randy Baxley. Here. Paul Lowe.
Here.
Michael Fagan. Greg Bird.
Here.
Edna Langley.
Here.
Tim Seals.
Here.
Sammy Solomon.
Here.
Robert Blevins. Gene Esslinger. Randy Bales.
Here.
John Neal Scarlett.
Here.
Ronnie Coleman. Terry Dockery.
Here.
Jimmy Carmichael.
Here.
AJ Walker. Marcus Reed.
Here.
Heidi Thomas.
Here.
Next item, I'll ask our chaplain to lead us in prayer. Would you stand, please?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, once again, we come to you today thankful, Lord. Thankful for the county in which we live. Lord, we realize that we are charged with making decisions that affect our whole citizenry. I ask, Father, that you would help us to make the decisions that would bring honor and glory to your kingdom. Be with us through this holiday season. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to take just a moment to thank you for your inquiries over my recent loss of a body part last week. And unanticipated and unexpected, but thank you for checking on me. This month I think of veterans, and I would like to ask any veteran in our audience or on County Commission to please stand so that we can recognize you. We thank you for your service. First item is approval of our corrections of the agenda. Ms. Huffaker.
Can you remove Resolution 2018-61?
Is everyone in agreement that we remove Resolution -61? Any objection? No objection. Mr. Scarlett.
Under the Budget Committee, Dr. Johnson has another item that we need to attend to. We addressed it in the Budget Committee, and I told the Commission last time that it'd probably come, and so we'll need to suspend the rules on an issue down there.
Okay.
If you all want to discuss it, look at it.
That'll be under the Budget Committee.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Other additions or changes? So we'll drop Resolution 61, and we'll have special item, suspend the rules to hear a report from Dr. Johnson from the school board. All in favor of this agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Agenda passes without opposition. I do not have a list of citizens wishing to address County Commission. So, okay, thank you. So let's look at our minutes.
You need to approve the minutes.
Yeah, I looked over that. I'm sorry. You have the minutes before you as they're printed from our last meeting. A motion to approve our minutes would be in order.
Second.
Motion second. Any amendments or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved without opposition. Next item is not appearance of citizens, since I covered that, but a Resolution 2018-59 honoring G.W. Bud McCoy for his work for Jefferson County. And this is an honorary resolution. You have a copy of it. Motion to approve would be in order. Mr.
moved.
Douglas.
So moved.
Mr. Reed. Any discussion? Who's presenting?
You present.
Yeah, read it.
Resolution 2018-59, resolution honoring G.W. Bud McCoy for his service as the Sheriff of Jefferson County, Tennessee. Whereas since its founding, Jefferson County, Tennessee has been the birthplace of many praiseworthy individuals that have gone on in life to provide honorable and worthy service to the citizens of Jefferson County, as well as the world, in many differing roles and capacities. And whereas G.W. Bud McCoy, the lifelong resident of Jefferson County, Tennessee, is one among such individuals who, through personal commitment of time and energy, admirably served the citizens of Jefferson County as the sheriff for 8 years. And whereas G.W. Bud McCoy has a lengthy and storied 43-plus year career in law enforcement, including joining the Dandridge Police Department in 1975 and serving as a reserve officer until 1980. And joining the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office in 1980 and serving there until his retirement on September 1st, 2018. During his service with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, he served as deputy, supervisor, sergeant, captain, lieutenant, detective, detective sergeant, detective lieutenant, chief detective, chief deputy, and sheriff. Whereas G.W. Bud McCoy also displayed his service to the citizens of Jefferson County by joining the Jefferson County Rescue Squad in 1971 and serving as a lifetime member of the Jefferson County Rescue Squad. Joining the Dandridge Volunteer Fire Department in 1971 and serving as a member until 1994. He served as assistant chief, captain, and worked alongside his father, Garland McCoy, and his son, Derek McCoy. Serving as the first president of the Jefferson County Fraternal Order of Police in 1984, he served 10 years as president and remains a member to this day. Joining the Lions Club in 2008, he remains a member to this day. Coached many basketball, football, and baseball teams throughout his years in Jefferson County, Tennessee. Whereas G.W. Bud McCoy's tenure as sheriff was marked by increased employment of deputies and reduction in rates of crimes committed in Jefferson County, Tennessee. And whereas G.W. Bud McCoy increased patrols by deputies and a visible police presence in neighborhoods and communities to unprecedented levels. And now therefore be it resolved by this honored seating of the Board of Commissioners of Jefferson County, Tennessee, that we take this means to publicly commend and the hard and dedicated work and service of G.W. Bud McCoy as Sheriff of Jefferson County, Tennessee, and acknowledge the enduring benefit to Jefferson County, Tennessee from his tenure as Sheriff. Adopted this 19th day of November, 2018.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution passes without opposition. Mr. Kesterson and Ms. Huffaker, you're going to present. Bud, Joan. Joan said she come to take a picture of my bag one night. Too much more at staying. I'm handicapped tonight in a couple of ways. One way is Frank is not allowed to gouge me in the ribs when I go the wrong way tonight, so I'm operating as a handicap. Now, he can try it, but I don't know how that's going to work out. Next item is approval of notaries and bonds. Mr. Herndon, you have some names to add.
Yes, we had some late entries to the notary list. Brandy McElroy, an employee of Pro Team Auctions in White Pine. Madison Coffey, an employee of Jill Talley in Dandridge, request to be added to your list presented.
Make the motion to approve.
Mr. Solomon. Second. Second by Mr. Seal. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Election of committees, boards, and commissions, nominating committee. Mr. Seals, do you have you're presenting from the
Yeah.
nominating committee to
Thank you,
replace
Yes.
John Kramer and Angie Dawn. They've declined, and so the nominating committee is recommending Brian Morgan and Carla Bird to that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we met tonight, and we're bringing those two, Mr. Morgan and Ms. Bird, to the body. So moved, I guess. That's what you
Do I need a second? It coming from the committee? Okay. Discussion on this or other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Reports from elected officials. County Mayor, I have no report tonight. Mr. Herndon, Mr. Coffey couldn't be here. All our reports are printed and are available for you. Do you have other than your business that you need to report?
Yes, sir. I just want to make
Okay.
the commission aware on the resolutions. The school board did vote to approve those two that remain on your agenda. They did vote on that Thursday night, and they endorsed that and support that as well about the two bus issues there. The one they took off because TSBA is already addressing that issue through other legislative means. So,
Thank you, Mr. Jones. So moving down to old business, Resolution 2018-51. This is second reading on a resolution to waive county motor vehicle tax for vehicles receiving exemption under Chapter 923 of the Public Acts of 2018 for volunteer firefighters and rescue squad personnel. Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Carmichael, second by Mr. Byrd. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of second reading of this resolution say aye. Aye. Opposed?
I abstain.
You abstain. Two abstain. Everybody else was aye? Where I can tell, or?
Two-thirds, I think.
It's 14 votes,
14 votes.
the way our rules of procedure.
If we got 2 abstentions, we don't have
How many votes do you have?
Everybody's on board?
How many's here total, Frank?
Got 15 here.
So it fails, lack of having two-thirds majority.
Off to next month. Bring it back. January.
Like,
I'd like to bring the second reading back in the month of January.
He can pull it if that's
Okay.
not enough here.
Right.
so we need to come to work session first, or just come to a vote?
No, it's second reading.
Okay. Thank you all. Next item. You'll find a copy of the County Commission regular session schedule of meetings. Shouldn't surprise you, looks like the standard issue of every year of county meetings. So we would need to approve schedule a meeting so we can publicize that for the year.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve, we have a second.
Second.
Mr. Bales. Sorry. All in favor of the calendar as presented, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. We have Resolution 2018-56 that comes from the County Commission regular session, or Planning Commission, Mr. Seals has brought. It's amending the zoning map of Jefferson County, Tennessee by rezoning request property from R1 to A1 located at 1355 Collins Road in Newmarket, owned by Sean Wilmoth. That was originally denied by the Regional Planning Commission, and they're recommending denial to you here tonight. So if you make a motion and approve this, it is denied. So,
And you vote yes. That's
right.
yeah.
Yes is no in this instance, because the Planning Commission has recommended denial. So,
Motion to approve this.
make a motion to approve the denial. We have a second.
Second.
Couple,
Second.
Slangley. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? Then it is denied. Resolution passes, but it denies the rezoning. Resolution 2018-57, this is amending the zoning map by rezoning property A1 to C1, and it's at 2015 Chestnut Hill Road, and it's owned by Melissa Pistoli Properties. And this was approved, recommended to you for your approval by the Jefferson County Regional Planning Commission.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor of this resolution say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Carries. Mr. Potts has some items on our handouts. You'll find those handouts in your package. One is insurance and some resolutions to declare surplus some equipment. Is there any action on your insurance? Okay, do you want to? Y'all may have covered this Tuesday.
We did, but that's fine, Mr. Chairman. My recommendation was to stay with the surety bonds. Several months ago, we'd reviewed this in the Budget Committee, and the Budget Committee at that time had suggested or passed that we come back and suggest we go with the insurance. And after further review and discussing this with Mr. Jarnigan, our insurance agent, we've changed, or I have changed my mind based on his information.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner, what's your pleasure?
Can you make a motion to stay with?
You will have a recommendation from the Budget Committee that moves to the surety bond. If you want to take Mr. Langdon's recommendation, you need to vote opposing that recommendation.
Are we voting on it now, or wait till the budget?
No, I'll vote on it now.
John Neal, did you mean insurance or surety bonds?
Sure, if you want to leave it the way it is, you need to vote no. That confirms Mr. Langdon's recommendation, since he found this other information out. If you want to change it, then vote yes, because the recommendation came out of the Budget Committee based on the information we had at that time.
Okay.
Mr. Langdon's found more information, figured out where we are, so his recommendation is not to change it.
Okay, Mr. Seal.
Do we need a motion for that?
No, the Budget Committee has, I can say that the Budget...
So we need no action now.
No, you've got to vote on it. You've got to dispense with this.
Okay.
So the Budget Committee's recommendation is to move to insurance only. So it does not require a second, comes out of the Budget Committee's recommendation.
But this...
If you want to follow Mr. Langdon's recommendation, then you vote no.
Now.
No.
Okay. I did get a motion and a second. We've had this...
You don't need that.
Okay.
Comes out of the Budget Committee.
It's committee, you don't need.
Okay.
You need a roll call vote on this one.
That's money, yeah. Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Katie Huffaker,
No.
Todd Kesterson,
No.
Steve Douglas,
No.
Randy Baxley, Paul Lowe,
No.
Greg Bird,
No.
Edna Langley,
No.
Tim Seals,
No.
Sammy Solomon,
No.
Randy Bales,
No.
John Neal Scarlett,
No.
Terry Dockery,
No.
Jimmy Carmichael,
No.
Marcus Reed.
No.
Then it 0 to 15.
Oh, I'm sorry, Heidi Thomas.
No.
That's unanimous.
Get your no in there.
Okay, Resolution 2018-58 is declare surplus from Circuit Court Clerk, computer equipment, and calculators.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Seal, Mr. Scarlett. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Resolution 64, declare a surplus and authorize the county clerk to dispose of office equipment.
So moved.
Mr. Seal. Mr. Byrd. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passed without opposition. Resolution 2018-65 to surplus county clerk, county maintenance department
So
items.
moved.
Second.
Mr. Seal, Mr. Solomon. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes without opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now we're at Budget Committee. Mr. Scarlett, you wanted to suspend the rules?
Not at this point in time, I'll be right there in a minute.
Okay.
We'll get the rest of this stuff out of the way, if it's all right, Mr. Chairman.
That's fine. We will do the County Amendment Fund 101, BA number 4. This is money, so it will require a roll call vote. Is that correct?
It deals with, once some coming out of the fund balance, yes, sir, it requires a roll call vote.
Thank you. Discussion on this item. You call a roll call vote.
Katie Huffaker,
Yes.
Todd Kesterson,
Yes.
Steve Douglas,
Yes.
Randy Baxley,
Yes.
Paul Lowe,
Yes.
Greg Byrd,
Yes.
Edna Langley,
Yes.
Tim Seals,
Yes.
Sammy Solomon,
Yes.
Randy Bales,
Yes.
John Neal Scarlett,
Yes.
Terry Dockery,
Yes.
Jimmy Carmichael,
Yes.
Marcus Reed,
Yes.
Heidi Thomas.
Yes.
15-0. Passes 15-0. Next item is School Budget Amendment, Fund 141, BA number 5. Any discussion on this item? Is this, Mr. Scarlett, is this a roll call vote?
No, sir, does not require a roll call vote, recommended to the Budget Committee.
Thank you. All in favor of this amendment to Fund 141, BA number 5, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes without opposition. Deep Springs landfill purchase.
This was to approve tentative, Mr. Galt, of entering into a negotiation. This was to approve you up to an amount, is that correct?
Yes.
That's not been, no negotiation's been done. They don't even know if they sell it or not. This is where the convenience center is located, and it's off of a 15-acre tract. But this allows Mr. Galt to proceed with negotiation up to $15,000 for purchase property. Does everybody understand that? It'll come out of Fund 116, not the normal, not the general fund balance, but the sanitation fund balance. Fund 116. Comes as a recommendation from Budget Committee. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Discussion. No discussion. All in favor of this, say aye.
You need a roll call vote, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, maybe I'll get the next one right. Roll call vote, please, Mr. Clerk.
What was the amount on that, Mr. Scarlett?
Up to 15,000. Or not to exceed, or ever how you want to write it.
Katie Huffaker,
Yes.
Todd Kesterson,
Yes.
Steve Douglas,
Yes.
Randy Baxley,
Yes.
Paul Lowe,
Yes.
Greg Byrd,
Yes.
Edna Langley,
Yes.
Tim Seals,
Yes.
Sammy Solomon,
Yes.
Randy Bales,
Yes.
John Neal Scarlett,
Yes.
Terry Dockery,
Yes.
Jimmy Carmichael,
Yes.
Marcus Reed,
Yes.
Heidi Thomas.
Yes.
Passes 15-0. Passes 15-0. Next item is EMS holiday pay, and this comes as recommendation from the Budget Committee.
Yes. Mr. Langen, if you would explain that just a little bit for especially the newer members.
Yes, the county publishes and approves holidays for the year. And in our policy book, there are 5 days that are excluded for EMS and used to be for the Sheriff's Department. Last year during the budget process, we corrected that for the Sheriff's Department. I don't know why we didn't address EMS at the same time, but they're the only group that gets excluded for 5 of these holidays throughout the year. And so the recommendation here is that we treat them just like any other county employee in terms of vacation, or holiday, excuse me, not vacation. And it's approximately $5,000 per holiday when we do that. There's 2 left in this year, but on an annual basis, there are 5. Maybe 3 left. Anyway, 2 or 3 left this year, but on an annualized basis, there are 5 that they get excluded from.
It will be added to this budget as an ongoing recurring expense. It's funded out of the fund balance. Requires a roll call vote. So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Discussion. Mr.
Is that 8 hour?
It's 8
Yes,
hour
sir.
holiday
8
pay.
hours.
Yes, sir.
Discussion. Do a roll call vote, sir.
Katie Huffaker,
Yes.
Todd Casperson,
Yes.
Steve Douglas,
Yes.
Randy Baxter.
Yes.
Paul Lowe,
Yes.
Greg Bird,
Yes.
Edna Langley,
Yes.
Tim Seals,
Yes.
Sammy Solomon,
Yes.
Randy Bales,
Yes.
John Neal Scarlett,
Yes.
Terry Dockery,
Yes.
Jimmy Carmichael,
Yes.
Marcus Reed,
Yes.
Heidi Thomas.
Yes.
Dino. Passes. Thank you. Library reserves and fees.
Mr. Lang.
Okay. Okay, so the library has traditionally kept their reserves at the end of the year, and most of those are generated by fees and fines that are assessed through their individual libraries. And there's a handout in your book there. But this past year, the line item in the law changed to where it just excluded that from the law, that they couldn't, doesn't say they can't keep them, but it went from they're allowed to retain those reserves, and now it's just missing from the law. So we would like for the library to be able to retain those funds that come from the fines and fees and keep those as a rolling amount, that they will not go into fund balance, that they'll stay there for them for capital and books and the things they do outside of their operating budget.
This also comes from the budget committee.
Recommendation, budget committee, so moved, Mr. Chairman. Does not require a roll call vote.
Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries without opposition. Next item is roll call electronic voting.
You want to address that one?
Well, y'all were doing so much better without me, I think I'll just stay out of it.
All right, I may need your help. Okay. And I may need Mr. Bolton's help. Mayor Potts has asked that we consider, and went before the budget committee and it passed on the recommendation, asked that we consider a roll call voting. It will have a display, have capability of recording the vote and request to speak, attendance, several other things. And the ones of you all that were on the last commission, remember we looked at this at that point in time, and it was, Mr. Bolton, help me out, $17,000 or $18,000.
$16,000 to $18,000.
This is considerably less. The roll call system is $3,995, $4,000 for the first year to acquire the system, and $1,200 for a maintenance fee and support thereafter, not in the first year, but thereafter. Also, they're requesting $100 for 21 Wi-Fi Android units to where we can push the button. Total price is $6,900 up to $6,995. Mayor Potts has offered that he is not taking the chairman's extra stipend, which is $300. That's $3,600 right there. Plus Ms. Janice has moved over under Mr. Potts, so we have the money that was in our budget for the commission would be available to pay this. We do not have to dip into fund balance, and it was Mr. Langdon's recommendation, and the budget committee passed it based on those figures and that criteria. So moved, Mr. Chairman, because of Budget Committee recommendation, we better have a roll call vote on this.
No, I figured that. Well, I was thinking the other way, so I said, well, how about I'll reverse? Comments?
Go for it. No.
Call roll.
Katie Huffaker.
Yes.
Todd Kesterson.
Yes.
Steve Douglas.
Yes.
Randy Baxley.
Yes.
Paul Lowe.
Yes.
Greg Bird.
Yes.
Andon Langley.
Yes.
Tim Seals.
Yes.
Sammy Solomon.
Yes.
Randy Bales.
Yes.
John Neal Scarlett.
Yes.
Terry Dockery.
Yes.
Jimmy Carmichael.
Yes.
Marcus Reed.
Yes.
Heidi Thomas.
Yes.
15.
Mr. Chairman, was not on the, failed to get on the agenda, but we did address it in the Budget Committee. I'd like to ask Dr. Johnston to come forward at this time. If we could, I'd move to suspend the rules. If I can get a second, he can come forward, give you a handout based on what the school board passed.
You have a second, Ms. Huffaker. Second your motion.
All right. Takes a 2/3 majority of votes to before we go.
Let's have a show of hands for a change. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Suspend the rule. You vote to suspend the rule.
15-0, thank you.
All right, rules are
Trying to
suspended.
prevent clock.
Dr. Johnson, please come forward if you could.
Well, again, thank you for doing that. The reason that this was just passed on Thursday night, school board meeting, and I'll be as brief or as wordy as I need to be or answer questions. What I've included on the page with the writing is simply the actual motion that was approved by the school board, and then some rationale in the plan, and I will just briefly touch on that in a moment. You have some timeline of estimations. And really, I wanted to go ahead and try to get before you tonight, just so I could, one, as I told you back early in the summer, I want to keep you in the loop of things. And this was the first opportunity after the board did that. And then on the financial end at the bottom, you can see and read that. But now, in short, if you want to look at the picture side, I want this group to know that I do not think a synthetic surface is being presented because of just the luxury or the nostalgia of having a synthetic surface. Our field gets quite a bit of wear and tear. From a director of school standpoint, I want to do everything we could do to address these issues and keep everybody on campus to where no one had to get in a car and drive for practice and those kind of things, with the exception of a golf course, and I've tried my best to fit that on campus and I can't, so that'd be the only sport that might have to go down the road. But what you do when you turf the field is it automatically becomes then a practice field as well. They can use that multiple sports. Again, I've encouraged our board, and it was a pleasure to hear somebody in the community even earlier today talk about the game field rather than it always being referred to as football field. We have sports now that didn't even exist when the school was built in the mid-'70s, and it's shared by both male and female athletes. And so there would be a schedule, and I would ensure to that. And we'd build a culture of equity there to where our student athletes that are both male and female have access to that. So when the board was looking at trying to add an extra practice field so that girls soccer specifically didn't have to go off campus to practice, one, we had some landlock issues, and two, if you only expand one field, you still only have one field. So it's a third of the cost of the synthetic surface was built in the fact you didn't have to build an additional field somewhere else, and then that field would have had to be off campus as well, whether that was behind the Patriot Academy. And then you get into, again, kids are getting in cars to go, and if football's the one going down there, we've got kids that would have to come from the Patriot Academy to the field house and get their stuff, and then we'd have to turn around and either bus them or put them in cars, or they'd be in good shape by the time they jogged back down to the Patriot Academy for practice, one of those three. So that was the part of the rationale. The track has not been usable this past season, and we are talking to some different folks. I also have talked to the East Tennessee Development District, and they're looking at possibility of opportunities to try to help us in the future with some of these type things. But long story short, what was approved was putting a synthetic surface down on the game field at Leroy Shannon Field, a new track. and be 8-lane track. That way we are eligible. It may not be that we get it the first year, but we are eligible to host TSSAA sanctioned events, and just an opportunity to show off our community and campus there. You can see, and you've got to forgive the artwork, but that's as good as it gets in my hand. And the practice field goes down about 110 by 65 feet wide addition, and then replace the tennis courts. Tennis courts are usable for PE, but they are a long ways from ideal for matches at the high school setting and those kind of things. That's what was approved. And then at the very bottom, I just said complete softball field and stadium. The line of view of sight at our softball field, if you are sitting between home and the first base dugout, you have no idea if somebody's out or safe at home, and same thing on third base. You can't see the field, and the plan is to basically move home plate towards center field about 10 to 15 feet, and that would increase the line of sight. It would also include a new press box and some bleachers. The bleachers there are struggling. New dugout roofs. It also has a concrete slab going in their hitting facility, and then also a surface on that. You wouldn't want the balls hitting that, but just an indoor-outdoor type carpet there. So it's comprehensive to address the equity issues, the safety issues, and to keep all our kids on campus. Now again, that's the Cliff Note version. There are some odds and ends that aren't in this. When we go out to RFPs, we would be more specific to narrow that down, should the county commission give us that consideration, and that was why I wanted to get in front of you as well, so I can start doing groundwork. I don't anticipate any type of money need being, March. We're looking at starting in March, winter months. You can get somebody that wants to do it, but I've been advised by a couple of different folks that do this specific type work that you can get in a mess, and it really hurts the quality of the work. So again, that's back on the other side on the timeline. And you can look, and as I gave the board on Thursday, and in their packet before that, basically available funds are 3.5-ish, and the motion was approved for 2.4, which would still leave 1.2 available in funds. And Mr. Potts, also in consultation with Mr. Langdon Potts, he feels comfortable that we would be okay. So I would just ask your consideration on that.
Any questions on commissioners? Do you have any questions for Mr.?
I have a question. Do we need a motion to let them use?
We will need a motion and a second and a roll call vote, I would think.
I move we approve. I got some questions for you.
Okay, let me get a second here. Got a motion, Mr. Seal. I have a second. Ms. Huffaker? All right, go ahead. Mr. Byrd? Yeah.
Okay, now I got a question.
Okay.
They're already using the football field for soccer, right?
They do.
And, of course, I was there when the doors opened. And it's been grass for all those years. Why all of a sudden we need turf if they're already using it for soccer?
They only use it for games, matches, soccer matches and football games, with the exception most football programs would be out there on a Monday night for a JV game, or a Thursday about an hour practice, because they actually do their game prep on that day as far as kickoff, kick return, so they actually need the lines and the actual dimensions. But right now, as far as it getting wear and tear, it's usually not touched unless you get into week 8, 9, 10, you're not in the playoffs, then it could be that you're practicing on it because you don't have to take care of it. So that would be why. Only matches right now. Our girls soccer team currently has to go to the Ruertan Park, get in cars and get down there, or be bused, and we've had some issues there.
Why do they have to go up there?
We don't have another facility. Let me just say, that's been the practice. So they would either have to go there, or football or somebody would, to avoid practice on the game field. Because it gets enough wear and tear. If you practiced on it by Labor Day, time they are out there every day in July, it would be just a mud, look like a tractor pull probably.
I still don't, like I said, it's not been an issue before. Like I said, I remember playing Monday night, Thursday night, Friday night, and the thing I'm wondering is, this is for me hearing other schools that have to play us, they hate playing at the field because we're the only grass field. You know what, that's home field advantage. Everybody else has turf, and we're the only grass school. Sevier County hates playing. And I've talked to the coaches about it. They hate playing in Jefferson County because they don't like playing on grass.
I understand.
Of course, we're fortunate over there. We have the turf fields, but multi-use, lacrosse, soccer, and so if we go with this, then we won't need a soccer facility, is what you're saying then, right? With the multi-purpose field?
That's correct. Soccer and football. would be sharing the game field for rotation of practice and game schedules, and then the practice field. So one of those groups would be on, in the fall, because they're both fall sports, would be on the natural grass one day, and it could even be on a Monday as an example. JV football is at 6:30, but soccer could still practice on the game field 3:30 to 5:30, and the natural grass field wouldn't even be used. Until we know everybody's practice and game schedule, I can't give you specifics, but yes. And I will say this too, in doing some research, obviously some folks would be, like you say, favor natural grass. I love the smell of fall sports happening right after the grass has been cut, but at the same time, you know, you hear about some colleges and different people that always have natural grass. They also like, in doing just a little bit of research I read online, a lot of colleges totally take theirs up every year and totally resod it, and they have whole crews that take care of it in different things, so there's money there. And then also, I wouldn't have recommended this too. I just thought it was the most cost-effective method, but one, the kind of turf that was out there in the 80s and late 80s, that was rough and hard on kids, but in doing the research for this, I think it's a safe surface. It keeps our kids safe. Now, that's not saying no kid will ever get hurt. It's a sport. Somebody's going to get hurt, but it's just different than the previous turf.
Mr. Douglas?
I think somebody, was it somebody before me? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump line. I really wish I'd known this was coming tonight, because my daughter's an ag student at the University of Tennessee. She's written a paper against us very time. There are several things about turf. Number one is the sanitation part of it. Like bleeds, whatever, skin, scrape, it's there. You know, it stays on. Number two, a turf field is considerably hotter than a natural grass field. And, you know, I'm just not sold that you have to have an artificial turf surface to be able to have an attractive facility. And, you know, I understand where you're coming from. You know, you want another field to use, but still, you know, that's one thing I like about UT. It is still
Sure.
a grass field.
Sure.
And like you said, and, you know, everybody can talk maintenance cost. There's not going to be that much difference maintenance cost keeping this field up versus keeping a regular grass field up. Because this stuff is expensive to maintain.
That's not been my experience in the district I came from, where they put it in 6 years ago. It saved money, countless hours of gasoline. We're pretty fortunate that our co-op comes alongside us, as I understand from our coaches and AD, and donates or at cost gives us a lot of stuff. But if it ever got to the day that we were buying that, you would see it as well.
Well, I don't have that paper in front of me, I'm sorry. All right.
No worries. I appreciate the question.
Mr. Doctor?
I have 3 questions, and it's just for information.
Sure.
I'm on board, planning on voting yes, I'll tell you that. But I'll get asked, I just want to make sure I answer correctly. Is the practice field still be grass, is that correct?
That's correct.
Not too long ago, a friend expressed a concern about the band practicing on asphalt. Will they still be practicing on asphalt or grass or turf?
At the bottom of one of the pages in the packet I gave the school board, they've got option. It was lined under that new paving project that you all approved there a year or two ago, but finished up this. They have a spot on pavement. The district I'm coming from, we worked out a schedule on Thursday nights. There was, you know, football had it for 30 minutes, or soccer had it if they had it, but there was a night in game season, game prep, that band was figured in, and, you know, it'd be open to everybody that needed on that. You know, I got to sit down with our coaches, our ADs, our sponsors, our chaperones, and get that worked out. But
The last one, does the expansion of the track eliminate the visitor seating, or does it get moved? Or?
Well, I want to go back and talk to our school board about that. The plan and the price right now backs that up. So that little road that runs behind, you're losing it, you can kind of see anyways, and I've talked to Dr. Walker. We can get our buses and do a drop-off. We'll get with Miss Dotson on that. So that field would go down and eliminate that road, but part of the price estimate was that we would back that up, and it could be that he even bid, or not bid, but just gave me numbers on those 2 lights, maybe having to be backed up 6 or 8 or 10 more feet as well. But, you know, there is a potential cost savings there with what the players of the board want to do with the bleachers. But yes, they would have to go back. Because when you add the 2 lanes on the home side right now, it's going to push the field over.
The question I was asking, just a little bit of concern about if you didn't have, if those would seating be adequate.
I understand.
School figure it out.
Currently, it was approved as if the price that we're giving you includes bleachers being moved back.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
part of these are just comments, and I have a daughter who's over at the high school, and I have many, many friends for many years who have requested this similar type plan, and I just wanted to give some information that I've been told from various people. But even if you're opposed to the turf, which I support the plan, but the shape of the track's not correct, the track's unsafe, it's not usable. They can't have track meets over there right now, correct?
That's correct.
Because it's in such bad shape. So in order to fix the track, you're going to be digging up everything around the field. And when you add the lanes, you're going to be shifting stuff around. But,
And on that, just sorry, but one thing I was told about 6 years ago, they did a resurface, and the company told them at that point, this is the last resurface that you can do. Next time you have to do something to the track. And apparently that was 6 or 7 years ago, and they said this will be good for about 6 years. And I understand the track team was not able to practice on that this spring. I mean, not able to have a meet. They still do some practice, but it's pretty rough. And so it would have to come out. The company that did that 6 years ago said this was the last time you could redo it.
I have a question for you, though. Is the soccer field the same size as a football, or will the size...
It's actually a little bigger than a game regulation field, but a soccer game field would be, and the lines would be part of the turf design, so you'd have different color lines for soccer and football, and then we'll get with our coaches on that, and whoever gets the bid to do the job, should you all approve. And, you think, man, that's going to be a lot of lines, but, these people do that every day for a living at multiple campuses. So it's not going to be, I know some have used school colors, others have gone to a white lines for football, a black line, and it stands out. Really, when you're playing soccer, it stands out pretty well. But it's 110 by 65, and I've talked to Coach Way, soccer coach, I've talked to football coach. They have a good relationship. They both assured me of that about each other, to where they're going to share and work that out. But it would be wide enough. We're not just going to put a football field and then make soccer lines fit, if that makes sense.
So we're actually changing the inside to meet the soccer needs.
Right now, if you look off the end zone, like up on the end where on the top of your page, the out of bounds or the boundary line for soccer is about 3 or 4 feet probably. You can't see it on this picture, but it's 3 or 4 feet from the track, and we would build that to where it was adequate space. They kind of they're tight to do a corner kick.
So
I've just told you everything I know about soccer, but that's it right there.
So from my personal experience, if you ever go to a soccer game, those kids are running right up to the curbing that's around that track, which I would think is not the safest situation to have. So I think that would be eliminated. And I know soccer and football overlap, so when the soccer team's trying to use the field right now, it's hard to get the football team off because they're going over to this practice field, which is not really adequate because it's not big enough. And so there's a delay in the game that we have now. Soccer has multiple issues at the Boys and Girls Club. So for safety reasons, my personal opinion, the kids need to be on campus. They don't need to be jumping in a car with 3 or 4 different people riding up there with no restrooms to use, no facilities to change in. They're changing in the parking lot. They're doing things that are not safe, and we need to resolve the inequities in the sports teams. Logistically, this is much better where you keep kids on campus. You don't want the kids going over to Patriot Academy because there's too many of them, so you want them, in my opinion, to be at the main campus. So I think this is a good plan. And
out of the operating under the bleachers, there's a plan to make sure we have an equitable locker room for soccer as well. With soccer girls being in the fall, boys soccer's in the spring, we can do one locker room, and they share that seasonally. As far as football players or different sports coming through at the same time, that's just common courtesy. We'd have to work on that. I have stressed to coaches, if I've talked to them through this process, that one, we're going to have to take care of our track. There's some things that we currently do on our track that if this all gets approval and we go forward, we're going to have to cease. That's not how you take care of a track, and that would include football players walking from the field house down there. So we're going to have to make sure they have a way to get down there. But going across the track's not ideal. Matter of fact, usually schools that put in synthetic surface, the company will give you a 20-foot wide by 40 feet long, or 2 or 3 of them to use and lay down on the track, so as athletes of other sports with cleats come on and off, they don't mess the track up.
Mr. Bales. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I've also looked at the softball field. So I know we don't have time before we vote on this, but if anybody wants to go see some differences, go look at the softball field and then go look at the baseball field. And the softball field needs this renovation. And I want to say, our sports team do an outstanding job with what they have, but if we could revitalize our facilities, I think the kids deserve it, and I think that it will be a great thing for our school system.
Mr. Bales.
I'm sure you've done your homework and you've looked at every option that you have, or at least several options. To resolve the problems that you have that we're going to solve with this, what's the next closest thing as far as cost? What's the difference? Because obviously you think this will be saving in the long run, and that's why I'm asking that question.
Yeah, I do. One, you got to figure in the intangible, the safety factor as well. So we've either got to, I know that you've heard the board's currently considering purchase of land, but you still have to go out and go around to get to that, or it's a pretty long ways. But if you go to Patriot Academy, you know, we could make something work back there behind, but there's still site prep plus then a field, which would be, you know, to do all of that, you're looking at right at $300,000, and you know, on that. So that's half or 40% of what's estimated here. The other part of that just simply is the trickle down. You know, again, you got kids leaving campus, you got kids coming back, then the equitable thing, because in reality, it's going to be really difficult physically to move 100 football players a mile down the road every day. That's 2 or 3 buses by the time you figure pads and equipment and that kind of stuff. Not to mention our sports medicine, our certified athletic trainers on campus. He's at practice now. He's there with both sports right now. He has to just be at the one he thinks got the greatest chance of being an injury. And those kind of things. So we've also talked about some intangibles. No decisions have been made yet, but I've talked to middle school principals. You know, parents have the right to do whatever they feel is best with their students, whether that's homeschool, private school, whatever. But as a general rule, we're looking towards every one of our elementary and middle school kids being patriots. And we've talked about to try to build some of that up, have some common things. You know, maybe some of our middle school games would be on that synthetic surface and put them out there on Tuesday, especially to build some pride back and those kind of things, and make those kids look forward to being at Jefferson County High School. You have an elementary field day that has been mentioned. Boy, we could do that there with that new track, and that'd be something that'd get our elementary kids fired up in spring. I mean, I could go on and on with possibilities, but no decisions have been made pending approval by everybody.
Mr. Reed.
I'd like just to ask, was this a unanimous vote in favor of this by the board?
No, sir. It was 4-2. As you know, we only have 6 right now. One will be sworn in next week following certification of election results today, and then a 5-day waiting period. In talking to the one that's not on the board, had he been, it would have been 5-2. In talking to one of those members that voted no, the 2.335 made him a little nervous. He basically wanted, and I think I can say this confidently, he would have felt more comfortable if we'd have taken one of the items off to get it more around 2. But then he even openly in the meeting, and I don't have an exact quote, but after the vote, he said, I'm glad y'all voted to do that. It's going to be a good thing. And then so it's 4-2 was the official vote, but that's the backstory on that. And the other one I would venture to say is against this, but only because we have a great many building needs. And one of the things I shared with them was that's one of the reasons I wanted to try to put this behind us, because if we start tackling building needs and have these things out there, you know, it could be we never got back to some of these. If we can do this, put it to bed, now we can tackle our building needs going forward.
So I guess my concern would be that this is more important than some of the building needs we have right now, that the building needs are not that pressing.
No, the school board's actually considering, they're actually looking at an RFQ right now and just reviewing it. We're going to probably, they will probably approve that December. When you start talking about the building needs times 13 or 14 campuses, you're looking at way more than what's in the fund balance anyways. So that was the concern, and then you start splitting and dividing that. Certainly not more important. And I've taken some steps to start addressing some of the local concerns at our building levels, and did that over the last month or so. But you know, we have some buildings that are aging and different things. So just you're not going to be able to fix the building needs with just that.
Mr. Baxley, did you?
Yes.
Mr. Baxley.
I mean, of course, everybody knows this is school board's fund balance. Correct?
Yes.
With that being said, I call for the question.
Question's been called for. To have a second.
I had my hand up before he did. I just got one question I want to ask. That's all I want to ask.
I have a call for the question, and I have a second. I have to have a vote on that.
do.
And it takes a majority or two-thirds?
Majority.
Majority. So, question has been called for to end discussion and go to the vote. All in favor of calling the question, raise your right hand. I assume everybody else is opposed. Question is not called for. Mr. Solomon, you can ask your
What's the
question.
different price in turf and sod? Have you checked that out?
It just depends on the site prep and what your site is. I know that if we're starting with a field and going to make it into a facility, practice field and those things, not us going out there and tilling it and sowing it, you know, to site prep and get that sod in there. As far as truckloads of sods, I have no idea. But I know that practice field is going to be $280,000.
Mr. Kesterson, you haven't spoken.
I just wondered, in your all's plan here, are you all addressing the restroom facilities at all?
That was mentioned. It was not part of this plan. That needs to come out of operating, but restrooms shouldn't be deteriorating and bad anyway, so I'll be working on that. It was mentioned, and that's there's also part of that soccer, the room, basically the room that soccer's been using as we renovate that. We're going to probably insert two doors that folks can get to from the outside and add 2 ADA restrooms for spectators, and then they wouldn't have access to the locker room, but we have the plumbing availability to do that.
One second. Anyone who hasn't spoken to this issue that wants to speak? You haven't spoken. Okay, Ms. Upper.
If it was turf, it would have the life would be longer, right? Because you've got multiple teams out there that need to practice at the same time. So if you had sod at the football field, you wouldn't be able to have practice out there every day like you need, because you got to have soccer and football. Because you're moving soccer from one location to this location where they're currently up at the Boys and Girls Club. So if you went to sod, you would still have a problem, wouldn't you?
Any natural surface we're going to wear out if we're having to use it for practice. That's, you know, so then it's going to be an issue regardless of time of year and those things. So that was and I'll respectfully just say to everybody how serious and I've taken this, and I just felt like it was our best long-term. And I will say something about warranty too. The warranty on a synthetic field is usually 8 years. He tells me he gets a lot out of his, somewhere in the 12 to 15 range with proper maintenance. The only time he's ever seen one wear out at the warranty time, it was like a YMCA in a major city area that he had put in, and he said it was being used 16 hours a day. So imagine 16 hours a day in that type setting, and that gets at, you know, we've got kids on it maybe, you know, 3 or 4 hours a day, and not all year and every day.
Mr. Byrd.
Yes,
Carson Emmons did make it 10 years. Gatlinburg Pittman, 5 years has had to be replaced. So before we go, someone telling us 12 years, they don't.
No, the warranty's 8, but I'm not sure who did their facilities and those things. I'm just relaying what the information I was given.
And Carson Emmons just football on their football field. I mean, his last one, where you can get bad patches.
Sure.
But it's covered.
Mm-hmm.
But, and just what she said, I coach softball. I've seen the softball field. It's awful. It's one of the worst in the conference, and it needs work done. Yes, it does. I agree with that. But how did we get in that place? Why are we spending all this? Listen, I've coached softball for years. I understand softball don't get nothing. Ladies soccer don't get nothing. Ladies sports don't. How did we get in this situation with this? You know, last week they said we're about to be sued Title IX in their meeting. How did we? Who got us in this situation?
I can't answer that question. Since I got here in July, I've received several emails and one letter that just hinted at we need to address the equity issues before we have help addressing them.
Well, I thought, you know, it's more of a threat. I've done my research. I've talked to athletic directors and stuff, and asked them, I said, how serious is this lawsuit? I said, if you address it, there won't be no problem. Right. It's just somebody trying to force our hand.
Yeah, and I think, as I've shared with the board in emails and different things, I think we presented it in the form of, I certainly would want them, and they're awesome, they do a good job, and this board as well, and I don't mean this sound manipulative or anything, I just would rather us come out ahead and be proactive than it looked like we did it only because we had to. Mm-hmm. And but nobody's used with me specifically the S word, the sue word, or lawsuit, but there were just...
Last week, it was mentioned it was a possibility. That's the reason why I asked that question.
Yeah, I mean,
I wasn't happy with that.
I understand.
I mean,
No.
I hate to be threatened.
My emails have been very nice as far as please address this. You're new. It's been a problem a long time. Years ago, I think there were even issues with softball going back to, they got kicked off during their season for football to have spring practice and stuff. So.
And that, they just got that new fence. Within the last 5 years, I guess, they had a temporary fence for a long time.
Okay.
Like I said, I did middle school softball in the county, and we had to raise our own money.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought windscreen, we did fundraisers, we had to fund it ourselves, pay for our own grass seed stuff, so
Sure.
yeah.
And if I could say, I'm sorry, sir.
Hold on, Mr. Kesterson.
I've just got one more question. I know last week we addressed an issue with our vocational program and the welding potential of what we can do there. Will this have any effect on the money, or will there be sufficient money to address that issue?
Yes, sir. In talking to Mr. Potts, he feels comfortable through that 1.2, and again, through that East Tennessee Development District, we're also trying to find some help with CTE classes. They often are able to come alongside and give some help. That's why we didn't want to specifically commit money from this body or our school board initially until we can find out we get some maybe from another source. But that program is full steam ahead. As a matter of fact, we offered a job to a welding teacher today.
Thank you.
I'd like to go ahead and proceed with the vote unless there's any
Thank
other
y'all for your
discussion.
time and consideration.
Mr. Herndon, would you call the roll for vote?
Katie Huffey.
Yes.
Todd Kesterson.
Yes.
Steve Douglas.
No.
Randy Baxley.
Yes.
Paul Lowe.
Yes.
Greg Bird.
No.
Edna Langley.
Yes.
Tim Seals.
Yes.
Sammy Solomon.
No.
Randy Bales.
Yes.
John Neal Scarlett.
Yes.
Terry Dockery.
Yes.
Jimmy Carmichael.
Yes.
Marcus Reed.
Yes.
Heidi Thomas.
Yes.
Carries 12-3. Next item, we had Jefferson County Industrial Development Board, Mike Docker Resolution 2018-63. My information is this will be brought at a later date. Thank you. Resolution 2018-60. It's a reduction in the waiting period for prospective school bus drivers to take a driving skills test. This was also approved by the school board this week.
So moved.
Mr. Baxley,
Second.
Mr. Seal. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes without opposition. Resolution 2018-62, streamlining the school bus driver licensing to meet the criteria.
So moved.
Mr. Seal,
Second.
Mr. Baxley. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Passes. Commissioners, we have come to the conclusion of our agenda.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. I want to recognize the Mayor of Dandridge and the Mayor of White Pine for joining in with us tonight. I about forgot that, but we appreciate you all being here with us.